I want Waller to tell us what is microaggression. It's directed from who to who, where to where. Where does the arrow, where does it start, and where does the arrow point?
Well, in any dynamic of power, it's who's in power versus who isn't, who's the dominant.
Okay.
So it can be, you know, any category, right? Gender, race, sexual orientation, what have you. In the case of race and ethnicity, it would be, you know, the white dominant culture of, let's say, America against the quote unquote minority, because I don't like using that term, but for the sake of numbers and who's dominant in culture, it would be against people of color. And in our case, we're talking about African descended people, so Black people. And when you're in the workplace and you are, you know, the less visible dominant culture, you're going to feel this perception of, I have to get this right. I have to get this perfect. I got to put my head down and really like work. And you end up working double as hard, not often recognizing that you are, until maybe a situation happens and you're like, wait a minute, I've been busting my butt for this. The other one that's really, that I can look back on now, because again, I didn't have these terms for myself. I don't even think the work in diversity, we didn't have the word inclusion yet. I was working at, in corporate in early 2000s. So diversity was very much centered on just trying to get young people into the pipeline, and because they were worried about, you know, just getting us in the ranks and then figuring out retention later. So I can now look back and also see I didn't want to make mistakes because I didn't want to mess it up for another Black person. Because if I make the mistake, then they may not hire that next person. And so you kind of internalize this messaging that you have to be double as good, not make mistakes. Then there's, you know, very concrete things where you may be overlooked for a promotion, overlooked for salary increase. You have to like advocate and you're fearful because you're supposed to just be grateful that you even have a job, let's say. I luckily didn't have to face that. Those are larger aggressions. That's not a microaggression. Another microaggression is you're not being invited by your white colleagues to lunch on a daily basis, or the weekend golf or tennis, because they're thinking, or they're just not even thinking. You're invisible at that point, right? Not even.
I've definitely experienced that in the UK.
Huh?
I've definitely experienced that in the UK. I've worked in healthcare for over 10 years, and it's the same thing. Yeah. You know, invites from my white colleagues, I wouldn't get them. You know, if they're going to lunch or having like, you know, just feeling segregated.
Exactly.
If you were eating a particular food, you know, they'll kind of frown upon you. Those weekend invites, again, you know, you wouldn't be invited. Definitely, that's been me. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I am a nice person. You know, I do my job, like, you know, I'm friendly, but why is it that they're not being, you know, why are they being the way they are to be? And that really impacted me in a way. And I had to really find the strength to, you know, just say, right, there's nothing wrong with you. You're brilliant. You're excellent, you know. And even sometimes in the workplace, because you're Black, you know, people, like when you're in meetings with your white colleagues, they single you out to make you feel stupid because well, to me, it's like, oh, because I'm Black, the Black girl doesn't know what she's talking about.
Exactly.
So I have to work. I find myself having to work extra hard to make sure I know my stuff so nobody can beat me down, you know? So that sort of thing. So I definitely know what you're talking about.
But, and the issue with it, for one, in the workplace, it's a mental stress. And work in and of itself is already, you know, pressure. So we're walking around with this extra pressure, which actually can affect performance. But let's say it doesn't affect performance, it affects your mental health. And that's an issue, right? Now, on another level, the problem with not getting the invites or feeling like you can invite your colleagues and they would accept it is that the social nature of getting to know colleagues impacts your career progression. You are going to promote and give opportunity to those you feel you trust most, know best, And so if you're not able to build the social capital at work, it's going to affect your opportunities. So ultimately, right, it's about access and opportunity if we're going to have an equal playing field. And so these dynamics of micro and macroaggressions literally impact your career and life trajectory. So that's why I was so intentional at Birthright. And we have panels of what we call innovation partners and leaders, entrepreneurs of African descent who are working at this level, are striving towards it, have already made it. I'm talking about vice presidents at your corporate level, folks who've raised $1 million or more for their tech company. And we literally ask, in addition to the great things they're doing, what are the microaggressions and racism you have faced along the way or are still facing today? Because once you recognize it is happening to others, you don't feel alone. Because I'm sure you felt so alone, Lady Visionary, and I know I did. Not realizing this is happening to everyone. And as long as we stay silent, we're going to continue to be disempowered. So we're breaking that conversation. We've been asking the question, where are Black leaders? Way before the pandemic and this global resurgence of Black Lives Matter. I was so happy to see that question being asked. We've been asking that since the very beginning, because I knew at the end of the day, that's what a system of racism and oppression and a lack of education of knowledge of self is doing. It is suppressing your value contribution to suppress your legacy and wealth building. And so we have to get at that future component that is driven by knowing who you are, like they say in Sankofa. In order to know where you come from, you have to know, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. And if where we are going in this creative, innovative economy, and now Africa is presenting that as an opportunity for us, we cannot be left behind. We should be the first in line as the descendants of our ancestors to reap the rewards of this 21st century global, innovative, creative economy, and where the raw resources have always been, that have been the reason for the suppression and the oppression and the enslavement and the colonization. But if you don't know that history, then you think it's you. Something's wrong with you. It's like, no, it's something wrong with the system, and it was purposely made to disempower you. So let's reframe this narrative. Get your birthright. Understand your birthright are your roots and your greatness, and how you leverage that in your life.
You know, what you're saying, I can really relate to that, because, like, as I said, I spent 10 years working in the healthcare system. In my career as a physiotherapist, in my like my department, I was like always the only Black staff, for example, in my department, or, you know, one of two. Yeah. And, you know, as you said, like, you know, when you face those sort of oppressions, you know, there's a mental stress that you have to go under. And I just remember sometimes just not feeling like, I know I'm brilliant, but then just being under so much stress, not feeling happy within my environment. And my escape after my first visit to Ghana in 2010 was like to just keep going back to the motherland. And that's what I was doing. I visited Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania. And I really felt like empowered. I really felt that greatness coming through. And then I didn't want to be in an environment that was going to suppress that. And as you say, about the opportunity. And I've always been a person who's very much a visionary. So I was thinking about legacy building, and also knowing what I know, I want to be an example to other people that will potentially follow me. So I was like, there's no way I can stay in that environment. And so, you know, I made the decision to leave very, very early. Like, I'd say my first experience in Ghana, I knew from there, because coming off the plane, it was just an overwhelming embrace from the ancestors, I believe. It was so comforting. It was like, what have you been waiting for? Like, you know, welcome home. And so that was the beginning of like my journey. And definitely I knew that there was no looking back in terms of staying in the West for me. And so I'm just feeling so overwhelmed, because I know the potential that we have as Black people. And you talk about, you know, the Black examples, and that's so important. Representation is so important. And, you know, hopefully, you know, I can only speak for myself right now, but obviously more of us can be an example for those who may be even thinking about coming to the continent and, you know, bring in something, you know, bringing their experiences and doing something to push Africa forward. So it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's happening, and the age that you went is the age we still impact. So imagine tens and thousands of lady visionaries out there, tens and thousands of Colin Keith Roaches out there. And not that you have to move to the continent. That's not what we're saying, but we're saying be connected. Know what is happening. Invest. Continue to travel. Be a voice in the diaspora for the continent so that the systems that keep us oppressed financially, economically, cannot survive. Because that's what this is really about. Colin, I know you keep wanting to jump in.
Yeah. I have a kind of a practical question here.
Yeah.
How long can we work in a system, or with the people who develop that system, who benefit from that system globally, or even, let's say, in the areas, in the lines of white supremacy, Europe, United States, and so forth? These people who perpetuate the system seem to have an automatic shutdown switch when it comes to us, right? They have an automatic shutdown switch when it comes to us. We are just avoided, we are just left out, and most of all, we are denied. Right. Okay? We are denied what we earn. And they do it routinely, easily, effortlessly. You know?
Yeah.
Now, so how do we keep working with such a people as we continue to become enlightened about ourselves?
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying here? It's becoming more and more glaring to everyone. Not to everyone, to a lot of people every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's becoming more glaring, and people are saying, I don't have a compromise in me anymore.
Yeah.
I have to leave. I have to go to the continent. I have to make that option become available to me if it's not readily available. Right?
Yeah.
So for some people, a lot of people, it's a transition, a mental transition now, and the risk-taking and everything it takes to move from where they are to the continent.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And people are more and more seeing that the continent is the obvious option now for them. Right? Regardless of what the shortcomings that we see on the continent and so forth.
Yeah.
So I see this is a fork in the road for a lot of people. And each man has to make his own decision. Do I stay where I am and bounce my head against a wall, or do I take a risk and jump across the river? And that's a decision each one has to make.
Absolutely.
That's
and
all.
you know, yeah, and my decision has been so far to be bi-continental, is what I call it. So to your point, like my spiritual and mental health, especially after this pandemic, and what I dealt with as someone who is an extrovert who needs connection, as someone with elderly parents who had to be caregiving, and just in the work, right, of moving Black people forward, it was very heavy. Physically, I felt the heaviness and could not wait, literally was counting down the days till I could go back to the continent, which I did in December. And I literally know that if I had not been able to go, I would have been broken, like completely broken. However, I'm also doing this work to connect the diaspora, starting with the US, back. So I'm not going to completely leave the US. And I have my parents here and most of my friends. And we're building up, we're supporting the education system to build these Birthright programs so that they can be a part of the ecosystem, right? So we work in collaboration. Birthright Africa is not alone in this. And the more of us that are together in community, even though we live in an individualistic society, you can find community. At minimum, come to us as a Birthright tribe. That's what we call ourselves. if you feel that level of isolation, or the opportunities and the access is not coming because of the system of racism and oppression, we're literally saying, hey, come be part of this ecosystem that is meant to connect you to access and opportunity. And that access and opportunity, by the way, doesn't have to come from a white person anymore. That's what we're saying. There are too many of us that are in positions of power in corporate America, in government, right? On the continent. And that's what we're dispelling, the myths about what the continent is representing for us. Because ultimately, and this is what gave me solace and refuge, and the spirit of George Floyd was just another level of power, right? What your spirit is and soul is in the ancestral realm can move mountains in the world. Because the resurgence of Black Lives Matter at the level that we had it, largely because of his murder, helped galvanize a level of awareness and awakening that allowed me as a Black leader to say, I actually don't have to worry about these white people so much, because this is a problem in a system they created for their advantage. And so they have to solve this problem. And there are, in my opinion, enough, or hopefully a growing number of not just accomplices, not just allies. What I look for now is accomplices. Are you someone willing to risk your money, position, or power to dismantle this white supremacy system? And if not, you can be an ally all day, but you're basically complicit in the advantage. And that's what we're seeing. So I now can distinguish which kind of person you are. And do you identify beyond your whiteness? Because remember, this is still a social construct. Do you know your history as a white person? What is your European descent? Do you know why your ancestors came here? They came here for land and opportunity, but they were also, and I learned this and it blew my mind, they were also traumatized, most of them being peasants and discriminated and lacking opportunity back in Europe. So they came as oppressed people to the United States, but then became the oppressor. We all say that very closely, but the oppressed becoming the oppressor is real, and they created a system of white supremacy because of a fear of a generational, of their own trauma of being oppressed in Europe. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be here in America really working together as folks escaping our own oppressions all over the world. But we're so caught up in like the fear of losing, of there not being enough resources to share. If you understand that we can share the resources of this world, you'll operate at a human spirit level and not at a racial, ethnic level.
It's really interesting. There was a day that I was at my friend's house, and I think I was probably about 14 or 15, and it was just what you're saying. It just said it's because of the greedy that we have the needy, and you've just put it into more articulate form, but that's basically what it is. Like, until we learn how to share the resources of this world, and it just comes down to that, really, that greed and that fear, as you said.
Well, I think the fear too is that Africa has most of the resources in the world. It actually kind of doesn't need anybody else, right? But the systems have been created such that we don't have the manufacturing and production infrastructure, intentionally so, and the raw resources end up being exported. All kinds of products for the most part are created outside, and then we end up importing and buying the products from the resources we created. Yeah, the value chain of what we have is not all in-house yet. So we're relegated to this global system that keeps us disempowered. This is the latest learning that I've, been embarking on, and coming from a finance background, economics background for me, this again, why it's so intentional for Birthright. We're not here studying our culture just to study our culture and be like all about our answers and, just like have this good feeling. No. We're here to empower ourselves with this knowledge. I learned yesterday from someone who called it protected knowledge. We need to share this knowledge about who we are and all our greatness, including especially that we literally, as the first people on the world, in the world, everyone is descended ultimately from Africa. But those of us with a certain skin tone were enslaved and colonized for it, because others felt that they had to in order to reap the rewards of those resources. Meanwhile, they didn't have to. At our core, we are a sharing communal culture, right? Initially, it was trade and exchange between Europeans and Africans. They came and saw we had built universities and we were doing all kinds of things in agriculture, science, technology, our arts. And it was more of a, how do we reap economically from this without having to pay the cost? You break it down, right? Economics is just like literally that. And unfortunately, whatever that ancestral trauma and greed, as you say, Lady Visionary, created, right? This system that we're still under. And by the way, this is the other thing that you open up to, besides like, oh, we really helped contribute and create almost everything, is that in the grand scheme of world history and time, enslavement and colonization is this much time. But yet we're so caught up in like this being the narrative and the story of who we are. And this is what's projected on us by a white supremacy system that wants to keep us feeling devalued. But once you break that narrative and realize the totality of who we've been in building great civilizations, kings, queens, leaders, entrepreneurs, creating all kinds of knowledge, intellectualism, you know, innovations, you shed that, you know, heaviness, and then your own gifts and creativity can come out because you have the pride and confidence now, more so. That's literally the three pillars: the pride, the confidence, and creativity that a birthright experience will give you.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, Colin, you go ahead.
Okay. In terms of collaboration, I'm hearing you talk, and I'm hearing a lot of what you say, if not by intent, in the words of Dr. Arikana.
That is the best compliment you could have given me. She is my
now, are you
hero.
collaborating? Are you collaborating with her and ADDI?
Soon. So this is actually a great moment for me to mention, and I should have, you know, probably mentioned this even earlier. We are we're having a celebration of our 5-year anniversary. It's our inaugural gala virtually on September 29th. Please, everyone, go to our website. Yes, purchase your ticket. This is a global event. And so we are going to obviously have some honorees and special guests. And I am very proud to say we are working to honor Dr. Arikana Shihambori Kwo, because she just gives me life when I am ready to give up.
Wow.
Yes. So that is like the biggest compliment you could have given me. Yes, she is a true inspiration.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
The question, actually, because you know, people will be watching and thinking, well, this is an amazing program. It's for me, it's like, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than Colin. This is, you know, as you say, legacy building. It's all about the economy, because you know, Black people, the Black community, we struggle because we don't own much. We tend to have more liabilities than we do assets, you know.
Yeah.
And so this movement, I believe, will really change that dynamics for now and the future. But there'll be people maybe who are watching who think, how can I get involved with Birthright Africa, either volunteering or donating? How do they get involved?
Absolutely. So of course, the first step is to go to our website. We do have a frequently asked questions page that addresses a lot of these types of questions, particularly if you're of age, right, to receive the Birthright opportunity, starting in the US, but eventually we will be global. So register. The first step is to register as a young person. And even now, though we haven't started traveling back again, we have created virtual experiences. And so the first type of exploration you can do is through yourself, through your family, your own neighborhood, and use the technology and share with the rest of the Birthright tribe. We're actually going to make that a very intentional part of the application process for when travel programs do open up. So get started early. If you are someone who is in the education system or just over 30 and you want to be a part of this experience and bringing it to young people because you've aged out, we get that question a lot. You as a community member, as a leader, as an educator can help start a Birthright program in your area. And that allows you to facilitate a cohort because naturally, if you brought it, we would want you to be chosen to facilitate. And so reach out to us. There's an education partner interest form on our website. There's a Birthright Scholars page for the scholars to register, an education partners page for those who want to facilitate programs. And in that way, we also give people over 30 the free experience because their costs are covered for travel. If you are someone who is a leader and an entrepreneur of African descent, doing your thing and has that pride and confidence, especially if you've been to the continent already, we want you to come speak to the young people. You are an integral part of the Birthright program. You represent the vision of who we want these young people to be today. So Lady Visionary, you already know you're top.
As you were saying that, I just felt the calling. So I'm like, yes. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I'll be happy to do that.
And hold on, for those who can, we want you to donate. Of course, this takes a lot of funding, and we want to be the funding engine for this and deploy it to our Birthright programs. Right now, our Birthright programs, we've asked to put up 50% of the funding, and we match it based on the program model that they create that we've approved, which is very flexible as long as it has local national programming, along with the global, and they meet leaders and entrepreneurs of African descent. And since we're having a gala, please take a look when you go to the Eventbrite. If you are at a corporate entity, at a foundation, and can sponsor at a higher level and really be transformative in the impact and help young people literally make this life change for themselves to be empowered as African descended in the world, then send us your information and we will reach back out to you and you can get recognized for it. It's going to be a celebration of global transformation. We have co-chairs that are amazing. We're going to announce next week. So you're getting early breaking news. Our co-chairs are going to be Jidena, who is on our executive board. If anyone knows him, a Nigerian American artist who has been already in this work and embodies the mission and vision. And his co-chair is Chere Robinson from Tastemakers Africa, who's also been connecting people to the continent. The two of them are coming together to draw in even more recognized figures and honorees. And so we're really excited to take this to the next level because we do see ourselves traveling again. If not by the end of this year, by the middle of 2022. And we have a registration database of over 20,000 young people who've told us they want the Birthright experience. So it's already gotten out there. And lastly, of course, follow us on social media. We're on IG at Birthright Africa, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and you'll get connected to become part of the Birthright tribe and help be a part of this bigger than life. I knew this was bigger than me too. I was like, how do I create a vision for this that goes beyond all of us? And so I'm excited for all the ways people can connect.
A great conversation, lots we can learn about, but it's phenomenal for the young people. I know there'll be probably parents out there as well who are thinking, well, I definitely want my child to engage with this program.
They can register. They can register on behalf of their young person. We have people registering their 1-year-olds right now.
Whoa. So yeah, I know that there's so many people that are interested in this program. So I don't know if Colin had any last questions or anything.
Yes, I have a question I was saving. Obviously, it started with Ghana, because for obvious reasons, the dungeons, the location, and so forth and so on. We are in Rwanda.
Yes.
And I think you had mentioned to me you want to do something with other countries on the continent. I don't know what that is, but hearing you talk a while ago, it seems like you want people from other countries on the continent to facilitate the Birthright program.
Exactly.
Is that right? Is that what I hear you saying?
It's called Birthright Africa because any nation on the African continent can be explored. Obviously, there are target countries that have built up more of their tourism infrastructure and also have cultural sites and museums that literally connect the dots for us as a diaspora, like you mentioned. With the dungeons, there's the W.E.B. Du Bois Center in Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah and his Pan-African views. But we are open to any nation that is deemed safe to travel by the U.S. State Department. And so not right now, South Africa, but in the future, because they're going through a bit of turmoil. Kenya, Ethiopia, Senegal, Nigeria, these are our target countries. And I'm hearing so many great things about Rwanda.
We had a very inspirational conversation with Wala, the founder of Birthright Africa. There's so much we can learn from you and everything that you're doing. Very, very inspirational. Those of you guys who are watching, please check out Birthright Africa, the website. Go and follow on all the social media platforms. I just want to take the time to say thank you so much, Wala, for joining us. It's been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
As Dr. Arikanako says, there are 6 regions in Africa: North, South, East, West, Central. North, South, East, West, Central, and the diaspora. So the diaspora makes up the 6th region of Africa. And now we have the leadership and the direction by which we could make all this spiritually one. And we just have to, all of us just have to join and continue to work at it. All right? And all the other things will solve themselves. Funding, issues between our people, all those things would become very manageable as we connect spiritually and culturally. All right? And that's how I feel. I'm on Amryl Life Tours. Amryl Life Tours is the name of my YouTube channel. Go there and subscribe. Subscribe and share. Amryl Life Tours, AMRYL Life Tours. And I have a website with .com. Okay, Lady Visionary, you can take it away.
Yes, and I'm Lady Visionary. Please go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so for more amazing content. Make sure you like this video, share it out. And yeah, guys, until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.
Peace. Bye.